Go order yourself a pizza. It's Friday night. Making the Band premiered on March 24th, 2000 to fill in the gap that Odd Man Out had left on the TGIF block. ABC attempted to capitalize on the boy band craze surrounding groups like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC by launching the only reality TV show to hit the TGIF block. The show focused on Lou Pearlman's nationwide search to recruit 25 young men who would compete for 5 spots in Lou's newest boy band. Lou had founded Transcontinental Records in 1992 and cobbled together the Backstreet Boys through a talent search very similar to the one documented on Making the Band. He was then introduced to NSYNC, who were signed to his label and would go on to manage other bands like LFO and Take 5. The first half of Making the Band followed the 25 finalists as they were whittled down to 8. Of the 8, 3 were asked to leave: Paul Martin, Mike Miller, and Brian Chan. This left the final 5: Ashley Parker Angel, Ikaika Kahawano, Jacob Underwood, Eric Michael Estrada, and Trevor Pennick. They were dubbed O-Town. The second half of the series then followed the band through signing their contracts, prepping for first performances, and working on their debut CD. During that time, Ikaika decided to leave the band, claiming that he had been recalled by his family. Dan Miller took his place in the band, and the first season wrapped with a performance for MTV. While Making the Band was the first reality show to premiere on TGIF, it was also the last new show to be introduced on TGIF as we knew it. May 5th, 2000 was the final night of new programming on our beloved block of TV. Boy Meets World had its series finale, while Sabrina the Teenage Witch moved on to the WB and Making the Band moved on to MTV. But where are they now? I can tell you. Let's start with the man behind the band. Lou Pearlman, who apparently was a first cousin of Art Garfunkel, fell into a wee bit of legal trouble in 1998. It all started when Backstreet Boys' Brian Luttrell hired a lawyer to help the band conduct an audit of their financials. It didn't make sense to them why they were making so little while the label was raking in the dough. It was found that since 1993, the band had received around 300,000 doll hairs in total. That's around 12,000 per member per year. The other members joined the suit upon this discovery, as well as them finding out that Lou was paying himself as a 6th member of the band. They were already at odds with Lou over him creating a band to directly compete with them, NSYNC, and this just added salt to the wound. With the Backstreet Boys' findings, other transcontinental bands followed suit, which included NSYNC, who sued, settled out of court, and then cut all ties with Lou. It was believed that Lou had been behind one of the longest-running Ponzi schemes in U.S. history after defrauding investors out of over $1 billion with a B doll hairs for 2 decades. First came the blimps that kept crashing. We can get into that another time if you wish. Then there was Transcontinental Airlines, which boasted a fleet of more than 49 aircrafts and an annual revenue of $78 million. Transcon Records, Transcon Food, all of which Lou had propped up with investments from outside sources. You know how it goes. You keep paying investors with money from other investors who you pay back with money from other investors until the well runs dry, and then you somehow convince a bunch of banks to give you loans by leveraging all of your property and cars that you don't actually own. And of course, as Lou began to default on investor payments, Uncle Sam got involved. As well as the offloading of all of his expensive cars like his Rolls Royces, an attorney was assigned to begin liquidating all of Lou's assets. And that attorney found some interesting things, like the fact that the $317 million hairs that were supposed to be in Transcon's EISA accounts, along with the $156 million in bank loans, had vanished, along with Lou himself, who had fled to Europe. But then a German tourist in Bali spotted Lou at a cafe after he had been on the lam for several weeks before being busted. He was indicted on multiple counts of bank fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy, money laundering, and filing for false bankruptcy. Lou was sentenced to 25 years in prison in May of 2008. But then in 2010, Lou suffered a stroke while incarcerated. He was diagnosed with an infection of his heart valve before receiving surgery to replace said heart valve. And while he had been scheduled for yet another surgery, he did pass away while in custody at the Federal Correctional Institution in Miami, Florida on August 19, 2016 from an infection of the inner lining of his heart, which is essentially the only evidence that he actually ever had one. It also bears mentioning that Lou had been accused by several young men for inappropriate behavior with them while they were being managed by his label. Rich Cronin from LFO was one of Lou's accusers. After leaving O-Town, Ikaika had been invited to join two other Making the Band contestants, Brian Chan and Mike Miller, remember them from the final 8, in their new group, Element. At first, Ikaika was reluctant. His experience with O-Town was still fresh and raw. He said that he hadn't gotten along with the other guys and that he didn't respect them both on a musical and personal level, that there was just no love there. Even though there wasn't any trash talk between them, it was, and I quote, "still just a whack, ugly situation. I'm cool with them now and wish them all the best, but at the time I had to get out." Ikaika had also allegedly been chosen to live in the house with Lou, and sources claim that Ikaika had grown visibly uncomfortable in Lou's presence. Apparently, his brother flew in from Hawaii and never left Ikaika's side afterwards. Then Ikaika opted to leave the show. Would I be surprised if Lou played a part in him leaving? No. No, I wouldn't. Then Jonas Persch and Matthew Morrison, yes, that Matthew Morrison joined Element later on, although Matthew only lasted throughout 2001. The group ended up opening up for Britney Spears on her 2000 tour Dream Within a Dream summer leg and produced one studio album, All Sides, before disbanding in 2003. As for O-Town, they released their debut self-titled album in January of 2001, which featured that iconic single, Liquid Dreams, and went platinum in the US. They also opened up for Britney's Dream Within a Dream tour and in 2002 released their sophomore album, O2. Unfortunately, O2 was not as successful as their debut, and by 2003 they were dropped by their label J Records. And thus, O-Town was no more. Jacob, who was my favorite, I won't lie, started a country band called Jacob's Lock. Dan and Trevor went solo, and Eric took a behind-the-scenes role as a songwriter. Ashley returned to MTV in 2006 for his own reality TV show There and Back, Ashley Parker Angel, which he appeared in with his then fiancée, Tiffany Lynn, and their fetal collab Lyric. The show focused on his family life as well as his attempt at a career outside of O-Town. He did release his own solo album that year, and then a year later joined the Broadway cast of Hairspray as Link Larkin. In 2011, there were murmurings that the band was back in the studio together. Jacob tweeted a hint that they might have reunited as well. Ashley, however, decided not to join them. That album did come to fruition in May of 2014 when the band, sans Ashley, released their third album, Lines and Circles. For the next 3 years, the band toured together on nostalgia tours with other 90s and 2000s acts like Ryan Cabrera, 98 Degrees, and Aaron Carter. In 2017, they followed up Lines and Circles with an EP titled Part 1. That same year, Ashley joined the Broadway cast of Wicked. 2 years later, O-Town released their fourth studio album, OTWN, which was supported by fans after the band crowdfunded for the release. In 2023, Ashley appeared on The Masked Singer, but has since taken a step back from music in pursuit of a career in wellness. He launched a supplement brand called High Level Science and has an exclusive partnership with GNC. So if you also saw that TikTok of him hawking stuff for GNC and were super confused like me, that's why. But while Ashley is posting thirst traps, the rest of the gang are still performing together and are currently gearing up for their 2026 boy band cruise alongside Chris Kirkpatrick, BB Mac, LFO, and Ryan Cabrera. And we know how much Ryan loves to play his guitar on a boat. Just think of it. You could spend 3 nights living out your liquid dreams. Anyway, that's it. That's the TGIF series. We did it! I hope you enjoyed this long and windy journey down memory lane, and thanks so much for hanging out with me. And of course, if you did like this particular episode, please save it and share with your friends. It really does help spread the good word of the cult. And don't forget to follow me over on the gram, the tube of the U, just in case. Good day, and may the cult be with you.